Today, we're asking the question, when should you start marketing your book? While you're still working on your manuscript or after you've hit publish? I'm lucky to have Judith Briles here to help us figure this out. Judith is a host of the popular Author You podcast and the industry's original book shepherd. She's an author of 44 books, a publishing veteran, and she's personally guided authors to over 500 book rewards. Judith, how are you today?
I am fabulous, Laura, and thank you so much for having me with you and your fabulous listeners. So we'll have some fun.
I watch your podcast, absolutely love it, as I'm sure many of my listeners do.
Yes.
Author you. So, when do you advise an author to pivot from marketing, and what are the first three assets they need to build before their book is ever finished?
Well, there's multiple. I think that, first of all, they need to understand that publishing, becoming an author, publishing is a business. It is a business. And you need a game plan with it. So that's number one. Number two is that your words are your product. And with that, that they have to be protected, one, and they too have to be promoted. And so one of the big questions that always bubbles up is, when should I start marketing my book? Is I need to wait till I have it in hand? And the answer is absolutely not. You start marketing your book in sometimes real subtle ways, sometimes really bold. And you start doing that the day you start writing. Okay, so, and I always say, well, if we miss that kind of mark, it will be today. That's where you start. You have to start doing it. So the subtlety ways is you start with influence building. Start building, start getting your words out there. I mean, I'm a firm believer. I don't know, Laura, if you've seen my little book, The Author's Walk, which I talk about all the time. And that I have one page about the power of our words and why they matter and getting them out there. So what you're writing, and I don't care if our listeners are fiction authors or they're nonfiction authors, your words matter. And there may be awesome advice for the nonfiction that you can start putting little nuggets out and one-liners and start creating posters around them, and you add your name to them. One of the quotes I always tell all my authors, and this is certainly for yours too, and your writers, is don't do well what you have no business doing. Or if you never say no, your yeses become worthless. I make my clients, as a book shepherd, actually write that down, put it on a sticky note so they don't get sucked into ventures that will take them down another path. Instead of getting to the goal is to write the chapter, write the book, whatever it is. And so I do have it as posters, that I would have it, don't do well what you have no business doing, and then underneath it I would have a little squiggle or something and my name. So that now, and by the way, all of you who do this, please make sure you put the copyright symbol and the day, the year, like 226, and you add your name onto it and embed it on any posters that you will put out via social media, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever. And so now your copyright travels with anybody who reshares and moves it on. You could very effectively start building followers with some of your sage little tidbits, those nuggets. For lines and sayings from some of your books, what I would do is pull a phrase, pull a line. It could be scintillating. It could be, ooh, chew on this one a little bit. And then I would put the title of the book it comes from, the title, and then I would put by Laura Williams, for example. Laura, I'm going to use you. So you would have Laura Williams underneath it, and you could even put available 227 or whatever, just so that people know it's coming. And what you're doing is you're waving the flag and you're saying, yoo-hoo, 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 here I'm coming. And you will start building followers. The next thing also that is just absolutely essential that everyone should be doing is curating and growing an email list. And Laura, I don't know if you or any of our listeners got caught up in June in the Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Skies. LinkedIn hit it. Amazon algorithm hell that happened in June, where nothing could be done. And I have sometimes I go on a rant, sometimes I'm going to just nag. I'm going to go on a nag. How important it is to have these email lists because you control them. These are your babies. You don't care if Facebook goes belly up because you have built your contacts that you can communicate with. Now, one of the things, and Laura, I know I'm going to show this to you. I know our listeners can't see it, but I'm going to describe it. I have a banner with all my books on it. I do a lot of bookstores signings. I have a great relationship with Barnes & Noble here. I'm based in Colorado, everyone. And I am all over the stores where I will go in for a day. A typical bookstore event sells 4 to 6 books. I sell 40 books when I'm in a bookstore.
Oh, that's wonderful.
One of the things I do is I have a form. And on the form at the tippy top of it says, join Judith Briles' email list for special events and activities. Now, this becomes my cheat sheet in multiple ways because I have all the books I could possibly have in the bookstore. I mean, I'm just finished, Laura. I can announce it with you. I have just finished book number 49. And it is at layout today. It went to layout yesterday. And this is my little cookbook series. Who thought that I'd be writing cookbooks? But I write cookbooks. It's Appetizers with Judith. And it's got over 80 really yummy, easy appetizers. I entertain a lot. And I dedicated it to a dear friend of mine who does not cook, who is allergic to a stove. Susan and I have been close friends for 40 years, and I'm the cook. And I dedicated it to her, and I said, hey, Suze, I have a few recipes with only 3 ingredients and no cooking required in here, just for you. So with that said, what I do, going back to my banner, okay, so this is a banner I have, if you can visualize it with me. So it says, join Judith Briles' email list for special events and activities. When I go into a bookstore, when I know I'm coming to a bookstore, I notify all my contacts, my book contacts, saying, hey, join me at the Barnes & Noble in Southlands, Aurora, and I will be featuring my new book. And that's the way you start doing this stuff. Now, with all the book covers going across, my little trick here is on the tippy top, I will put the number of books that's in the store, or I actually bring in to add. I always, by the way, other trick y'all should do in this thing called marketing is you have books in your car, in the trunk, whatever you have, extra books that you can supply if you sell out. And most bookstores, by the way, will immediately move you into a consignment thing that basically they will pay you cash 50% of the retail price and you walk away with it that day. Just an FYI for all of you. And then underneath the books, I do the old-fashioned tick marks, the vertical lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the diagonal that goes across 5. And I keep track of the books. Then I have underneath that columns, 3 of them, name, email, and mobile. And if you will all start doing this today for anywhere that you go, that you reach out to, that you show up at, you're talking at, start gathering these names. And I note the date and where I was. And then I actually will then transfer these into a Word document that I give to one of my virtual assistants who keeps track of all this stuff and upload it into our database for those emails that I can reach out to forward. If you will get into the habit of this right now, this is part of the marketing. If you will get in the habit of this right now, it will be a godsend to you and really help support and put you so far ahead of other authors. Laura, the reality is the average independent published author sells 100 books, and it's usually to the low-hanging fruit, my friends and my family. I'm trying to get you out to get beyond that.
Not in the writing industry, but throughout my career, I have been to countless industry shows. Mm-hmm. And it never fails to blow my mind how little people use the method of capturing emails. And they're invaluable to a business, whether it's writing or any other kind of business.
It also boggles my mind. Even in the bookstores, I've said to managers, don't you have a list? With people who have restaurants, don't
Right.
you have a list of all your patrons? People who do massages, don't you have the names and the phone numbers and the emails of your customers? Because actually, I know you people and you hop around other places. And then they're lost. I don't understand it.
Let me answer your question. So some authors are really intimidated by marketing.
I know.
They don't want to be pushing your sales. What advice would you have to offer them?
Okay, here comes another one of my posters, Laura. Get over it. Oh, dear. You've got me in a quirky mood today. You have to get over it because if you want to sell books, if you don't care about selling books, then it's no big deal, truly. But if your goal is to sell books, because one of the great myths, I come from publishing. I was a kept author. Simon & Schuster was my publisher. I had McGraw-Hill. They were my publishers. 18 of my books were published with New York. And I was technically well cared. I went out on authors tours. I had escorts that got me to places. I didn't have to think. I didn't have to set up anything. They did everything. That tain't the way it is today. Number one, even if you're with a well-established publisher, unless you're a big wig, unless you're a celebrity of some sort, you're kind of on your own. You're going to do they may do a press release. They may give a little follow-up for a couple weeks, but you're on your own. So you have got to claim you're a successful author. If you want to, of course, that could mean I just got the book published. I think we do. That's a whole nother discussion, Laura, what success means. But that if you want to give your book some legs to move, you're going to have to get over it. And you're going to have to do this as a movement out of, okay, so what do I do? What can I give 15 to 20 minutes every day to do my little goose, to create that poster with that quirky saying or that fun saying or that awesome nugget of advice that I could put my name on and just post it out. So it just starts doing it and you can start building your social media followers. But also, then the other thing is so essential to help marketing is you need a website, everyone, that's about you, but that you have an offering on the home page. And it always is going to be posted availability on the upper right corner because most of our listeners are going to be either North America based or Northern European based. And so they read left to right. So when you do these things left to right, that you want their eyeballs to land on, ooh, this sounds like a cool thing I want to grab. But for me to grab it, like on my website right now, Laura, since we're talking about marketing, that you all should have the ultimate book marketing plan. Okay, I'll give it to you free. I've got it all put together. It's in a PDF format. Go to my website, thebookshepherd.com, upper right, and it's in a bright color, orange. Click on it, submit your name and your email, and bang, you'll get it downloaded. That's how you start collecting emails. Now, you need to have a portal to where these email goes. And I think two of the best would probably be MailChimp or MailerLite. So,
Great.
those tips for you today.
It's funny, I often hear authors say, I don't even know what to post, what to do. And to me, just think about your book. If your book is historical fiction, maybe you can find some facts from your research that you can use to post. If your book is about paranormal werewolves or something, post about myths or about werewolves. There's always something. Just look at your book and think about what you can use it for.
You just said historical fiction. So I pulled out like book 3. I know, Lori, you know what it is, The Secret Rise. This is a medieval 11th century series. We have a kick butt Actually, badass is the word that people like me to say in the bookstores. I'd say when I greet people, do you like historical fiction? And say yes. And I ask permission. Can I tell you about my book? Can I tell you about my book? Do you like a strong female protagonist who has to become a badass to survive and thrive in the 11th century? And then we start a conversation. Tell me more. All right, so I just picked up the book as you and I are talking, and I'm looking at the back cover. Now, I love writing back covers for my clients. I've been good at doing it. I have a marketing mind for it. And so the lead title on the back cover is Nicole's Power Increases While Others Seek to Destroy Her. And then I would add for a poster, Discover How in book 3. All right. So I just gave that to you. All right. If your back cover is written correctly, you, dear listener, you should be able to pull anywhere from 5 on the low size to maybe 10 one-line posters off of it to make.
Smart. Yes, that's smart.
So I
like that.
Yeah, I am all, Laura, for repurposing. Why reinvent every time you turn around? I mean, we're writers, okay? So we're masters of words. And I can give that if I'm writing my stuff. And I know it's hard to write about ourselves. I do know that. But if I'm writing these things and you've got some juicy lines, use them.
Yeah.
You don't have to think up new stuff.
No, and that's the trick. That is one of the easier ones to follow because you are just repurposing, slicing and dicing. And it makes the dealing with social media so much easier because the content's faster to create. It's right there. As well as anybody, probably better than most, is that the time you spend on social media has to be worth something. Or it's just, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it does. One of the tools I think that, I don't know if you're aware of it or following it, but BookBrush is a wonderful tool for authors.
Not seen that one.
Oh, it's okay. So it's designed just for authors. Let me give everyone my discount code. They used to have a free version. I think now there's a lower fee version. I get nothing for it, but I do have a discount code, and it's just my name, Judith, and the number 15. Now, there are so many things, so Judith 15, there are so many things that you can do with this tool that you can get on to take advantage of, from making your book look like it's an author set. You can do reveals, like you can have a cover of your book, and you could do scrolls, strips, stripes, and reveal. Like right now, I mentioned when we started that we're off of the appetizers with Judith, now is in layout. I will have it back probably by the end of, within 4 or 5 days from the designer. And then we do the one final proofread, because once it goes into layout, things can get quirked around a little bit.
Sure.
And that we do the one final proofread. Do I do it? Yes, I do it. Do I have other eyes do it? Yes, I have one of my editors do it also. Because when we're so involved with our writing, our words, we get word blind. And our brain is telling us that it's perfect. It's all there because we think it is, and it's not. So that's what...
Read books that are actually written by editors that have typos in them, and it's probably because of that. It's just that you don't see them after a while.
You don't. You've been in them too much. You just been into them, and that's why I'm at the point where I now have to step away. I do have to step away and go through. And so I have another set of eyes that came through. And for cookbooks, they're a little different. And I'm someone who reads cookbooks. I mean, I love to sit down with a cookbook, and I'm automatically redoing the recipe. Oh, no, I would do it this way. That's what I do. And that when I get into that, I want to have just really another set. Like, I don't spell out tablespoon. I mean, maybe in narrative I do, but a lot of times it's very common to see in a cookbook TBSP for tablespoon. Nope, I just do a capital T. Just- if you can't tell a capital difference between a capital T and something that says a lowercase tsp, we have a problem. But I also,
Right.
in my author note, in my setup for me, to my readers, I let them know this is how I do this. And I also forewarn my readers I'm highly allergic to rosemary and thyme. They will never see any recipes from me that have rosemary and thyme in them. But if they love it, by golly, add it.
To me, cookbooks are the starting point. It adds to my own creativity, and I love to cook. Absolutely love to cook, and that's how I do it. I have so many cookbooks that I've read, but I don't often use a cookbook while I'm cooking.
Well, I open them up. I do open them up all the time for little guides. I'll take a peek. I need a visual, and I was trying to do something with fettuccine the other day, and I wanted to make a building like a nest with it.
Ooh,
And I needed to see the visual to bring it into play for me. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I bet it was delicious.
it was.
I love your BS2 evaluating titles and book covers. And that's a sticking point in a marketing program very often because a bad title and a bad book cover can just kill the progress that your book makes in the market, especially now that we're looking at those little tiny thumbnails so often. So, how can we pressure test our covers and titles before committing to print?
Oh, do I love you asking me for that question. One of my favorite tools, and let me say, you did mention the Author You, Your Guide to Book Publishing podcast. I just did a podcast in late June on 14 author tools you should be using. So for people to find that, you can go on YouTube and you can find me and those in there. But if I send you directly to the studio, if I send you, and I'm going to spell it for everyone, Toginet, Toginet, Toginet.com, and you look under their podcasts, and you'll see the number 2 will come up, Author You, Your Guide to Book Publishing. It's all alphabetical. And it'll scroll down and show, I'm not sure when this will air, but it will show probably the last 5 shows. I mean, but you can get into seeing all the shows, and you can click right on and hear just the audio of it, right? If you go to YouTube and pick it up that way, that you'll get a visual, because I was going in and out and showing people how to use these tools. What I'm going to tell you about is one of them on it. And if you do that...
Sure, that information is in the show notes.
Yeah, okay.
So it'll be fun. Yeah.
Okay, so we have that. And if you can link to the YouTube, that if you will all just say, okay, I'm going to spend an hour with Judith, I will save you so much time and showing you. And I tell you which ones are free to use. I tell you which ones are fee and what they are, okay? So the one that is free, one of my all-time favorites, the one that will help create a magnet and bring in that emotional pull, is called aminstitute.com. That's Apple Mary, aminstitute.com. And this is created by the American Marketing, Institute. So who uses these? Copywriters, people who are looking for the emotional or the spiritual or the intellectual, or we're looking for the magnet, the pull in people for a headline. You want to click on, when you go on aminstitute.com, and then you want to go in there, like tap above, and you're going to click on Headline Analyzer. Headline Analyzer. Now you get to have some fun. So you can go in and put in your words. You can put up to 20 words, and it'll come back and give you back and the number you want to have, the minimum number that you want kicked back at you is 30. And that's what copywriters, if they can get between 30 and 40, it's acceptable. They will go with that.
Okay.
Who are these copywriters, Laura? They're headline people for newspapers, for magazines. Think about your blogs, think about your articles, and all those things. So you can put one in, And I will go in, and I was working with one of my virtual systems because we have a newsletter that goes out every Wednesday. And I was working with her this morning, and we always, what do you put in the subject line? Ooh, we need to have an opener. If you're doing an email thing, what do you put in the subject line to help people open it? And we were putting in and what this was about. And so I was tying into like the 4th of July, for the weekend for the 4th of July, for the freedom we have with our words. We still, in America, we have freedom with words, hopefully. And so we were working on that, and I started at what I had, came in, first time it had like a 16 score. Ooh, so not good. So what did we do? We changed a couple of words. I got it up to 30. Ooh, well, okay, so I'm now in okay territory. But what could I do to do it to maybe goose it a little bit more? And we shifted a couple of words around in their presentation in the line. I added a new word in, and all of a sudden it was over 40. Okay, that became the keeper. That will be the subject in the subject line that goes out in today's newsletter for
It's
open.
also an educational tool. So if you do not have marketing mind, you start to begin to understand
No.
what the program is telling you and how to come up with your titles closer to where they're at the point that you want them to be.
Exactly.
Because that
Yeah.
fighting for place on social media and online is all about real good copywriting. It honestly is.
Oh, there's no
And
question.
that's just so important.
So once you have something and going on, and like I have my own rule that once something is, I mean, some people will do 6 months. I think that's too early. Usually, that if I wrote something 2 years ago, oh, that's fair game, totally fair game. That it'll get a new title. I'll do, or I may have to rewrite the whole thing. Who knows what it is? But rarely is
Depending on what's happened. Yeah.
rarely is that the case. And I will, and I'm thinking blogs because I'm a believer in blogging. I blog twice a week, and that if we had a blog that I wrote 2 years ago, for example, okay, so it's going to get a new title. I'll check it out with AM Institute. Does it have the right buzz to it? And I will do a rewrite of the first paragraph, and that's why. And I'll come back to the that's why. And if I have any bullets or anything like that, they get rearranged. Okay? And we go on that. All right, so then I can now repurpose it. I can reposition it as a whole new blog. I've made the Google gods happy, and you all should know that you don't want your titles to be more than 160 characters, and that includes spacing between your lines.
Very good advice. Yeah.
So, because that's the searchability. You don't want your description, that opening line or what you put up for your meta, for the description to be more than 160 characters. That's what gets duplicated and repeated in the search engines. So just sharing those little tidbits.
It needs to be unique enough. You don't want it to say, my thoughts on book marketing. There may be 100 other blogs out there, my thoughts on book marketing. You have to use some creative juice. And I love that AM Institute tool. I'm going to check that out because that would help with that tremendously.
Oh, no, you'll love it. It will become your new best friend. You'll bookmark it and get into it.
I am up for any tool that can help me do anything.
And it's free. It's free. Laura, as a side note on that one, that show actually was put together in 10 minutes when my guest, who I was supposed to be taping for the show, was having unbelievable techno nightmares. I have a producer and I have a studio. I have to pay for that space and all that. And so I'm talking to Ben, and he says, so we can just cancel. And I said, yeah, we can. No, you know what? I'm just going to take it. I'm going to go solo. Just let me go solo. And let me breathe here for a couple of minutes and I'll put a show together. And that's how the 14 tools came up. For marketing, let's come back to our marketing stuff. We have to pivot, know how to pivot, because it's going to happen. Something unusual going on. What are you going to do when you're selling books? Hopefully you're all thinking about, yes, we want a bookmark. We want bookmarks on it. Make sure that you put on your bookmark. I print them. Someone says, well, just print 50 or 100. You got to be kidding. I would be gone in a couple of hours in a bookstore with 100
Sure.
bookmarks. I print 1,000 at a crack, and I do them on matte. Don't do gloss. By the way, don't make your bookmarks glossy. God, they're slippery as snot, and you just can't.
Scatter all over the place.
Do not do that, people. So you want to do it on a matte finish. I like it 2.5 by 7-inch size. Gives me plenty of space on it. Make sure that you stipulate the formats of your book are available in paper, ebook, audio, if that's the case. Make sure that you have that on there, because a lot of times I'm in bookstores, and one of the things I love about bookstores was that people who come in bookstores like books. It's a good place to be. And so, but some people just read ebooks. And so I can tell them it is available on ebook. So you can get it on this way. And another little sales technique I would use, that if I'm selling, like I'm in the bookstore with paper books, and just literally tell them that if you pick up book one, and if you're on like Kindle Unlimited, here I'm in Barnes & Noble that's selling Nook, but most people have Kindle, or they have both of them. That I'm just saying, if you're on Unlimited, your subscription will allow you to download up to 20 books a month. You could grab the next in the series, since there's 4 books in the series, right there with no more money. I sell books that way.
Well, let me ask you another question. It's funny. I just talked to somebody about this just out of the blue, a phone call. But after the book launch, so you have done everything that you can to get this book launch off the ground, and it gets ground. You have a great 30 days, and then it tapers off.
Well,
So
well.
what do you do?
Well, here's the beauty of being a independent or a self-publisher. What's this nonsense about 30 days? You should be thinking of rolling launches. You should be thinking about, well, what can I do each month to bring it about? Now, I've shared I've got a new book coming out. I am launching it. I'm a member of the press club here, Denver Women's Press Club. We're actually having an evening event where I will be there, and I will be bringing in some appetizers, actually. So I'm feeding them. All right, we're talking about food. I'm feeding them. But by the way, when you do these private launches, you should be feeding people or having drinks, whether it's beer, wine, what tea.
Keeps them around talking longer.
That keeps them around
Yep.
talking. Tea, I have done private teas for events. I have done a brunch for event. I do events often in my house. I guinea pig my neighbors, they all expect it. And that I did at Christmas time, when I was starting to think about the appetizer book, I had like 50 people over, and I had a whole spread of different appetizers to see and they all ended up in the book, and see how that goes. So people eat and they drink, and that is one way to do it. But you can do it at any time during the day. It can be very light. I would not go very heavy on that, and I've done it in my home. But I've always said, so who of your friends who love you would love to invite their friends over to meet you too, that would be willing to host an event? Now, you as the author should say, I'd be glad to pay for any food that you want to put out, or any plates or anything like that. You do that. But you will be there selling your books. So you could be doing this ongoing as the book going. Now, where you and I are talking, we're at the heart of summertime. There are more festivals and craft shows all over Timbuktu. It is very common for authors to be there. Very common. So, why not you? Now, if you're thinking about going solo, I would have a little wagon with you, one of these rolly wagons that you can fill up with bags and books and stuff, so you're not trekking back and forth with the parking lot in a car. Your setup, you have that. I would one of my must-do accessories. I mean, I've got pull-up banners. I've got stuff. I think the most effective one is just like a 3-foot, 2.5 to 3 foot wide runner that you can drape over a table that says best-selling author, or if you love mystery and suspense, or something like that, in a bright color that people can see to start coming in. And then you think of visual type of displays that it do. I give people lollipops. I have a lollipop literally with my book. Here's the thing, kids want the lollipops, and guess what they bring with them? Their parents who read.
Right.
Okay, so
Right. And the child's occupied so they can talk to you more.
how many lollipops, darling, do you want? What flavor do you want? So I do different things and doing that, but that you're right. Usually 30 days it's over. Okay. No. It should be if your book has evergreen capability. I just interviewed Vicki King, who wrote the book I've known Vicki for like 40 years, and How to Write a Movie in 21 Days. It's 50 years old. It's a classic now. All right. So that if you have a book that would be considered evergreen, most fiction books are evergreen, by the way. A lot of business books could be evergreen. Also, like The Tipping Point with Malcolm Gladwell or Tim Ferriss's books or any of these things, they could have a long life to them. So what can you do to gussy them back up? And you can do cross promotion. How does the 4-hour day work? Is it still 4-hour day? I don't know anyone who works 4 hours. I think when we went remote, we started working longer. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with the internet because it's so easy to access at home. So it's like, even if you're in an office environment, you can finish up at home and it's just not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Yeah.
Work too much.
Well, yes, we do. Okay. So
But that's what it takes.
this is work. Remember, this is a business that's going on with all of you. And your product is you and your book. So what are you going to do to get it out there? Now, let me come back to a craft show or a table or even a bookstore. You may approach a bookstore. I have a couple of bookstores who will say, hey, do you and Joseph want to come in? Joseph's books are all middle school books. All right. My books are how to publish, how to get published, how to write, or historical fiction, or now cooking. That's my thing. We do not compete with each other. This is so important for all of you to understand. Your best friend, you may write romance, and God, one of your really good buddies also writes romance. Do not go to any event with them. Do not do that, because your buyers are going to buy one of you.
You're giving them the choice instead of
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So when Joseph and I do these bookstore events, I have my table, he has his table, and he's got kids over. He will say to the parents, hey, have you ever thought about writing a book, or do you like historical fiction or cooking? You need to meet Judith. I do the same thing. When they have to buy books, I will ask them, do you have any kids in your life or friends who have kids, or do you have a birthday party coming up for a kid? You need to see Joseph books. We cross-support each other.
Wonderful.
We don't take away from sales. So it's very important to remember that and this is really for the fiction authors. Nonfiction is a specific topic, subject, pain point. Someone's got a pain, they're trying to figure out what it is, and you're going to help them with your wise wisdom. That fiction is people are looking to do a drop in and drop out time and spend hours with this book. And with that you've got to be really exclusive on who you're willing to share your space with on doing these kind of events. So my 2 bits on that.
Yeah, it sounds like you found out maybe the hard way.
Yeah, I have. I have. When I do something called book fairs with Barnes and Noble, I'll coordinate bringing in 7 or 8 authors, and we are raising money. We give away. I'm the founder of the Colorado Authors Hall of Fame. And one of the events that we do is for aspiring authors, aspiring author scholarships. We give away 5 $17,000 scholarships. And we raise money. Barnes & Noble has been a wonderful partner for this. And when I'm in under that umbrella versus just selling my books, I'm selling my books there too. But Barnes & Noble, because we're a 501c3, Barnes & Noble, and the contract I have with them, is they will donate 10% of the store's sales of the people we give vouchers to the scholarship fund. A lot of times I'll put the fiction people together, but I put them very distinctly, like murder in Murder Mayhem suspense thriller. That author does not compete with the fantasy author. So they could share a table. There's some people who just read fantasy. Fantasy authors are unique. Readers and readers, they are unique on that. And I always have kid authors with me. And the kid authors, they can all be sharing a large table, an 8-foot table. I could have 3 authors there, but I would make sure that I would have authors who are the little bitty ones under 5, where they have the big
Right.
picture books. I would have the middle school. Joseph would always be in that mix, middle school. And then we have the more juvenile into the YA. Okay, so you have very distinct audiences. And it's very important, and that I honor that when I coordinate these things.
Yeah. That's great. That would be a fun event.
It is fun. We have a great time. It's a long day. We're talking 9 to 5.
I bet it is. I bet it is.
Long day.
I would be so peopled out.
Yeah, we do it. We do it.
So this has been a really interesting conversation. So let me ask you another question. What do you think is the most, I shouldn't say most, what do you think is the most valuable advice you can give for somebody who is trying to make that shift between being a writer and an author, trying to say, okay, this is now a business? So many authors don't have that business sense. You've been in this a long time and really absorbed into the industry, but so many don't. What would you say to them? How do they cross over into that? Would it be educating themselves more, or?
Yeah, okay. I will tackle that. Education is always important. I've told people that if I was to start now, I wish I had the last publishing book I wrote, which was called The Author's Walk. Finding your voice. It's all about your voice. The author's walk is not for the craft. This is not for the craft of writing. It's about your mojo. It's about momentum. It's staying on a kind of a focus track. I wish I had my hands on that years ago. And I just sat down and did a reread on it. And if we have time, I'll share that last page I was talking about, words mattering. Excuse me. The other book that will save you thousands of dollars of screw-ups is How to Avoid Book Publishing Blunders that I wrote. It's got over 100 common mistakes, painful mistakes. I've made some of these mistakes. Excuse me. And so education has to come into play. Now, let's go back. We're all writers. We become an author when you now go into the published arena. And this is my goal. I want to have a book. We're going to put it together. We're going to get our act together and do that. And it could be, maybe you're a blogger and all of a sudden you realize, God, there's a commonality between several of these blogs. That can be a sectional book and bring it about. But then it's making that commitment. Okay, I need to learn how to promote. I need to find my fans. I need to be in base. So you're talking about investment. So when I think about the authoring, that bridge we cross, there has to be a passion to it, the passion to your work, your words, to that. You've got to have that passion to it. And so that brings it into play. And what's your purpose and the why? So who is the passion for? And why are you the person to deliver it? It's very important to understand that. And so we have this passion, we have got this purpose, and then we have this commitment. Commitment has 3 components to it. Commitment involves your time, it involves your energy, it involves your money. What are you willing to put forward to do it? What pains me so many times when I have people who have the passion and they really do see their purpose, but the commitment starts faltering because then they start it's not even to really good enough yet. So that's when you bring in an editor. You're going to pay an editor, outside person who has expertise in your type of writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. in that. You need to bring in those players to do that. I want cover design. I think one of the important things I could tell all our listeners is, would you please just give yourself an hour, maybe 2 hours if where I'm sending you has a little cafe within the store. I want you to go to a bookstore and I want you to explore it. Explore the area of your genre where it would be resting to see what these books look like. What are those all about there? And then I think I want you to just spend time, what I call doing the do-si-do, and going around. There's so many tables that are centric, maybe just with one title on it. If they're like a fantasy table, oh, that would be Sarah Moss or Rebecca Yarros, for example. But it could also be just this huge mix of new arrivals. I want you to pay attention to the covers. And you need to find a way the new covers of your genre are looking to make sure that they're very specific on doing it. And remember, we do need to say this. For a cover, your cover only gets a 7-second hit before people say, pick it up or pass. Up to 7 seconds. That's it. That's it. So the cover is not for you, dear listener. It's not for you. It's for the buyer. It's for the person who's seeking this. All right, so that's the cover. The next thing is, if you're a nonfiction author, you have a subtitle. So essential, because your subtitle is the promise what's between the two covers, what you're going to deliver, okay? Now, then the book is flipped over. Now you've got 20 to 30 seconds on the back cover. Do you have a title? Are you doing the pull-in? Are you bringing this kind of things? One of the most effective covers that I wrote for myself was on a book that dealt with conflict within the female-dominated workplace of healthcare. The title of the book was called Sabotage. The subtitle was really long. And by the way, you want to get short titles so for your design here. The subtitle can be longer because you can stack them and you can do different things. This was a stack subtitle. And the subtitle was How to Deal with the Pit Bull, Skunks, Snakes, Scorpions, and Slugs in the Healthcare Workplace. Anyone who worked in healthcare knew what I was talking about. Often the book would just get sold. That was the pickup, okay? Now, when you flipped it over, my headline was, Are Saboteurs in Your Midst? Okay, and there was an image. And I had a pit bull with big red lipsticks in a scrub and a stethoscope around her neck. I had 5 questions. One of them was, do you have to deal with pit bulls with lipstick? Have you ever felt you'd had it, you want to quit? Has anyone ever taken credit for your work? Is your workplace the pits, etc.? By the 3rd bullet, the book was already sold.
Sure.
Your back cover has 20 to 30 seconds. Then what they do is they open up their book and they look, is it visual? Is it attractive? I like to get people, especially my nonfiction authors, we use call-outs, we use sidebars, we do anything to introduce new candy. And even with Mrs. Interior Design now I'm talking about, for my interiors of all the clients I work with, we always carry over some imagery from the cover to the interior that will do something on each chapter, each first page of a chapter, just to make it stand out. So what the person who's doing the scan now open up, they're seeing this is not just line after black text. This has got a little customizing to it. All right. That's how books get sold today. That's today's world in this process on that. So I think it's important to understand that. So I want you to all just mosey into the next weekend or wherever you go, just where you can have a sign. And because I'm in Bookstore, so if I actually watch people going around these tables, looking at books, maybe touching them, then picking them up and putting them up, or some just walking around and walking away, nothing got their attention. You need to figure out what's going to get their attention.
Another thing to pay attention to is the spine of the book.
Absolutely.
Because your book is going to be sitting on a shelf and maybe they're not going to be able to see the full cover. Mm-hmm. So something on the spine, so of course the title, but there has to be something that draws their attention.
Right. And I know that as I'm talking to you, I'm looking at my series. Okay, so I'm looking at my Harmony series, which is my 11th century kick-ass female protagonist. And there is a dagger, very jeweled dagger on that. And if you put all the books together, that you can definitely see that they're sisters. And that there is a band that pops up like you can see the 1 or the 2 or the 3 on that. And the cover is very bold on it. But yes, that cover art is so wonderful. And that's where you want to have a professional in play. That's my advice.
I agree. Very much. It's been such an interesting conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to visit with me because I know you're a very busy woman. This has been a very valuable conversation.
Oh, thank you. It's been my pleasure. And if we have a time, I could take a minute and share those words about your voice, if you'd like.
Absolutely. Please do.
All right.
Please do.
So everyone, this is from the author's walk. And someone read it, says, you need to make this a giant poster and put it on your book table. All right, so here it goes. The power of words and voice, your words and your voice. Without your words and your voice, history can become silent. Literature is dumbed down and disappears. Science reporting is crippled. Thought and speculation are at a standstill. Without your words and your voice, the development and revealing of civilization would be impossible. Without your words and your voice, the storytelling, the visuals, and the narratives of the imagination ebb to oblivion. Without your words and your voice, the engines of change will disappear. Windows that are the lighthouses erected in the sea of tides recede and they vanish. Without your words and your voice, the companions, the teachers, and the bankers of the mind fade away and cease to exist. Without your words and your voice, innovative ideas, solutions will wither to invisibility. And without your words and your voice, everyone is diminished. Your words and your voice are essential. That's what writers and authors do.
Really important that we always keep in mind how important our words are, not just in writing, but in communication in general.
Oh, yeah. They count. They matter. They matter.
They do. They do. And they can literally change someone's life. You never know when, but something that you said would resonate with somebody and literally could change their life. They're very powerful.
They can save a life. Just as a side note, I was speaking in Washington during a May one year in a hospital event during what they call Nurses Week. And I was doing like an all-day workshop. And there was one woman sitting very front. And Laura, it was just impossible to connect with her. I tried. She's with me all day. The hospital had brought me in. I was getting a lovely fee to speak to the group. And that the day ended. And I was talking to people who were coming up talking to me. This was a workshop and we're talking away. And I noticed her that she had folded up a piece of paper and tucked it underneath the edge of my computer and left. And so I finished up and I packed up, and my husband was with me during that gig. And we walked to the car and I put the note in my pocket. And so then we got in the car and we sat down. I opened it and I just said, stop, we can't leave. I have to go back immediately. And so, because inside the note, it says something like this. Today, I had nothing better to do today, and I saw that you were speaking at the hospital, so I thought I'd just come. Today was to be my last day, and I just want you to know that I've decided to live. You never know. I sat back and I said, who? So you need to find out who this is. She needs support. She needs support. She's one.
Did you find her?
Well, no, I didn't. I went back to my contact. You need to find her. This is what she looked like. And just tell her I've got virtual hugs all around her. Okay? So.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Wow. I just love hearing that kind of impact on somebody's life. That's terrific.
We've all had them. When I wrote my memoir, Laura, we could go on forever together here. My memoir is called When God Says No. And when people find out, I've had 2 children die. I've died twice. I've had cancer. I've been paralyzed. I had a partner embezzle $1 million. I was homeless. I mean, I've had a real roller coaster life. I was at a Barnes & Noble, and a woman was standing in front of my book display of When God Says No. And I went over to her and I said, "Hi, I'm Judith. Do you have any questions?" And she just turned around and collapsed in my arms. And she said, "I lost my baby like you did. And I just want you to know you helped get me through it." So that's why we write. That's why we get things out.
Right. Yeah, that's it. You just don't know. I mean, even in a fictional book, sometimes something just resonates with someone.
Yeah.
And them frame something differently and think differently. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah, you never
It
know.
really is.
Well, Laura, it's
It
been
really
a
is.
pleasure. Thanks
Yes.
so much for
Yes.
letting me be with you today.
Thank you. Thank you for taking your time. I appreciate it. To go ahead and share with everyone when you think your book will be out and where they can find you.
Oh, so next book, Appetizers with Judith, for you. If you like to cook, easy peasy, not difficult. And it's like, I'm right at your side. I write that way. I always have. I tell you where this came from, why I do it. And that will be out, Appetizers with Judith. And that will be out. You'll be able to get it through Amazon, or you go in a bookstore and they can order it. And certainly by August, I would think August 1st.
Oh, wonderful. In time for the holidays. Terrific.
Yeah, well, end of summer, getting ready to go. Yes, holidays. Well, my other books are all available. You can just go, if you go Judith Briles Books on Amazon, you'll find them real quick. Or if you go to my website, Laura, judithbrilesbooks.com, they will be linked to where they can go. The only one that's not up there is the appetizer one. The other Cooking with Judith is there, but because I can't put it up until I have it. So
It won't be long. It won't be long.
it won't be
All right. Well, thank you so much, Judith.
You're welcome.
To learn more about the podcast and to sign up to be the first to learn when new episodes are up, visit thewritingbiz.com. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, take what you've learned and put it to work in your own writing biz. Judith, you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.